It is 1977, and the Assemblies of God, as a movement, has not enjoyed any consequential growth for some time. Nationally, membership stands at around 9,000, and churches number around 150. The fellowship is very small indeed, and a conservative, regimental centralisation is blocking the creativity that autonomous churches will enjoy in future days. You are 42 years old, and at the AOG National Conference, a vacancy exists for the job of National Superintendent. You actually don't want the job. But as the voting progresses, the person who is elected declines the position, and you're one of the 3 new people nominated. You are voted in by a narrow percentage and feel it's an open door, so accept the position of National Superintendent of the AOG. It proves to be a significant day indeed for the movement. You and your newly formed team pioneer new concepts and initiatives in the way the AOG operates. Constitutional changes pave the way for more freedom, more vision, more creativity from the pulpit. One of the most defining initiatives you bring in is to set goals for the movement, something that's never been done in the history of the AOG. There's a goal set for a 50% increase in the movement. I think Phil Hills had something to do with that goal. And after setting that goal, you ask yourself, what have we done? It seems impossible. Since the previous conference, the movement has only added 3 members, planted 3 churches, as well as closed 3. Nonetheless, you go after the goal, underlying the challenge in a minister's bulletin that goes out, describing in simple terms, if every church plays its part and wins people to Christ, we'll easily achieve the goal. Just like Pastor Andrew, to break it down into bite-sized chunks. At the end of 2 years, the goal is not only reached, but exceeded, with the movement growing by 68%. Of course, as always, you're quick to give credit to others and God for the achievement of these goals, never comfortable taking the credit for yourself. As at the next conference, a goal of 100% growth is set, and likewise achieves a result of 128%. Setting goals becomes a permanent part of the DNA of the movement. Under your wise and visionary leadership, the AOG moves from strength to strength in a phase of unprecedented growth. 20 years on from the day you took the reins in 1977, and the figures are astonishing. Membership has increased from 9,446 people to 115,912. $9,500 to 116,000 almost. The number of churches has increased from 152 to, wait for it, 826 churches. And the number of ministers active is now 1,800. In the same period, the AOG in South Australia, of which you are also the president, has grown from a total of approximately 700 people to around 20,000. Across the nation, a new AOG church is started around every 7 days. Truly an incredible turnaround under your leadership. David and Marie Cartledge were going to be here tonight and would have loved to be here, but send their apologies because of health. Now, Clemzig at that time, back at the Clemzig church, the growth in your profile mirrors the growth in the congregation. Things are booming. A building program goes ahead in an attempt to cope with the expansion, or an extension rather. Shortly after an even bigger extension, multiple services failed to keep up with the burgeoning congregation. Along with the board of directors, you face a massive step of faith to believe that the growth will continue as God provides for the acquisition of a piece of prime real estate and the construction of a massive new building on Darley Road at Paradise. The building program is a huge success. Aside from a world-class facility, which at the time is Adelaide's biggest indoor facility, the enormous effort of volunteers sees the gigantic building completed at a fraction of the normal cost. And a thorough and successful stewardship program sees the building paid off within 2 years. That's something. The Paradise era begins in 1982. And it's business as usual for you as the same principles of prayer, worship, evangelism guide the establishment and growth of this new phase. Under your leadership, Paradise becomes the nation's largest AOG church, touching the lives of thousands here and overseas. Paradise becomes a lighthouse, a resource centre, a model for growth and leadership development, a place known for its inspiring worship and home to a dynamic Bible college. Toward the end of your tenure, over $5 million has been given to the cause of world missions. $5 million. As well as the pioneering of a score of other churches, including Southside Christian Centre under your longtime pupil, Danny Guglielmucci. Of course, many of our guests tonight are pastors of their own church, so that explains their absence tonight. Many assemblies are assisted financially, and hundreds of people are trained and equipped for the ministry. The leadership mantle on your life sees you go on to become a sought-after international speaker. You influence countless ministers, speaking at conferences in many lands. You make many friends in many far-off places, including the United Kingdom.
Andrew, did you always have to come at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, it's Graham and Pam Bristow, all the way from the United Kingdom. Now, usually when someone comes from a long distance to an occasion like this, you say they've come all the way from so-and-so. But of course, many times they came to visit, their Aunt Doreen or something, they just happened to be here. Now, this is not the case with the Bristows. You've actually come all the way over here essentially for this night.
Yes, that's true.
Isn't that an effort? That's a long way to come.
Yes, and that's very true. We've had our annual holidays for this year. We were basking in glorious Florida sunshine, but when we had that invitation, I felt that along with his immediate family, the church family here, and his many friends, it was only right and proper that we come and honour this man. And so I bring my greetings from the many friends in England, and has many there. We just want to say, bless you, brother. We love you. We thank you for your ministry. We thank you for your friendship. And truly, Andrew, you are a man of God.
Give him a hand. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, that's something. The success of Paradise Community Church and the AOG in Australia is known far and wide. You're invited to serve on Dr. David Yonggi Cho's Church Growth International Board, he being one of your great mentors, and to become a founding member of the World AOG Congress and the World Pentecostal Presidium. In fact, At that time, you're involved in writing certain documents and involved in things of quite a large scale in terms of designing constitutions and all sorts of incredible things on the world scene. Serving on Dr. Cho's board leads you to numerous opportunities to preach at what is the largest church in the world, which you feel is an incredible honour. Dr. Cho couldn't be here tonight, but sends you these thoughts. And I'll read the letter that he sent. Special birthday blessings for you, Andrew Evans. Dear friend, I pray you will enjoy the best birthday ever on your 70th birthday celebration. It sounds like it will be a wonderful time of honouring you and your life's work in the ministry. I'm sorry that I cannot participate, but my heart and prayers will be with you. The 70th birthday is a real milestone, and may the Lord continue to bless and use you in a mighty way in your coming years. We here at Church Growth International have been honoured to have you on our board, and we have loved getting to know you over these many years. Blessed birthday on your 70th year in His love and for His glory, Dr. David Yonggi Cho. Despite your success, the accolades and the influence, you always remain a down-to-earth person. Your care for other pastors, especially your willingness to minister in small, remote areas and in difficult circumstances, earns you the title of pastor's pastor. You also retain a keen and slightly offbeat sense of humour. We have to play along with stories of Gurkha knives that are so sharp they can cut your head off without you even knowing it. And when you nod later on, it just falls off. And we've all heard the one about the Chinese gardener named Hu Flung Dung. You're also never too busy to keep your eye on the latest sports scores. When away ministering interstate or overseas, you usually phone Lorraine late on a Sunday night with two important questions. One, how did church go? And two, how did Port Adelaide do in the footy? Of course, this is before the AFL days, and you would tell her that church went well, but Port had been thrashed by Sturt again. It's a little private joke that I couldn't help myself with. It is 1996, and a successful era as General Superintendent of the AOG is coming to an end. You continue to pastor Paradise Community Church, but feel God leading you to hand over the leadership to your son, Ashley. Your decision is once again not based on what's best for you, but what is best for the church. Over the next 4 years, you gradually release the leadership of Paradise, leaving behind an incredible legacy for the next generation. For the next 2 years, you help out a couple of struggling churches and restore them to health. During this time, you do about 8 overseas trips a year, speaking at large pastors' conferences and seminars. Then, at 61 years old, when most people are planning their inevitable move to Victor Harbour, you have other ideas. You feel a strong stirring within you to do something of significance. You talk to your son Ashley, who amazingly has felt exactly the same thing independently of the two of you talking. On an incredible Thursday night in 2001, the two of you have a conversation, that's you and Pastor Ashley, have a conversation that is one of those destiny moments. As a result of that meeting, yourself and Ashley become the co-founders of the Family First Party, and 12 months later, in an outcome of staggering proportions, you win a seat in the upper house of the SA Parliament. And I know all that's true because I was right there when it all happened, and it did happen that way, incredibly. The achievements don't stop with your election. As you're successful in enacting a piece of pro-family legislation in your very first term in office, something many other parties have been unable to do in a lifetime. In January 2003, you receive a wonderful and fitting accolade. Your services to missions and the community are recognised on the Queen's Birthday Honour List when you're awarded the Order of Australia Medal, the OAM, for services to the Australian people. "12 months later, more firsts, as Family First contests the 2004 federal election and wins a Senate seat to become a significant factor in the national political landscape. Again, this is an unthinkable achievement for a fledgling party. For you and Family First, of course, this is only the beginning, with much work ahead to continue to work and speak for families across this nation. Your workmates are now ministers of a different kind, and we have some greetings here from some that couldn't be with us tonight. From the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorary Rob Kerrin MP. I would like to take this opportunity to wish Andrew a very happy 70th birthday and congratulate him on the contribution he's made to this Parliament over the past 3 years. Since being elected, Andrew has made a significant impact as a member of the Legislative Council with his strong family values that are grounded in an unwavering Christian faith. He's highly regarded amongst his colleagues and a wide cross-section of the South Australian community, bringing his own special perspective to the many issues we've dealt with as legislators. I admire Andrew for his ability to stand firm for what he believes in, and I'm not surprised at the success of his transition from church to political leader. He's a man of integrity and a great example to those in his sphere of influence. Once again, Andrew, happy birthday and all the best for a prosperous future and in your continued service as a valued member of Parliament. That's Mr. Kerrin. Someone's stolen my thunder up there on the screen. I'm delighted to extend my best wishes to Andrew Evans for his 70th birthday. I first met Andrew through the Assemblies of God Church in Paradise when he kindly asked me to speak to the church following my visit to the Holy Land. I greatly enjoyed speaking about my experience and was moved by the warm welcome I received from Andrew, his family and the people of the church. Andrew is a man of great integrity and I've been very pleased to work closely with him since he was elected to Parliament 3 years ago. It was a particular honour to again accept his invitation to speak to the congregation in 2004 at Paradise. Andrew has lived a rich and varied life. His period as a missionary demonstrated his enduring compassion for people and his concern for their education and spiritual development. And the extraordinary growth of the Assemblies of God Church under his leadership, first at Clemsig and then at Paradise, speaks volume for his energy, wisdom and vision. I have a great deal of respect for Andrew's efforts in State Parliament, where he has provided a highly capable day-to-day leadership for his party. He's constructive, cooperative and thoughtful, and he stands up for what he believes in. My government's been pleased to work closely with him to the benefit of South Australians. Our work together on sex crimes legislation, for example, demonstrated the shared desire of parliamentarians to help bring about justice for the victims of these terrible crimes. Andrew Evans is an accomplished parliamentarian and a fine South Australian, and I look forward to continuing to work for him for the good of the state. Happy birthday, Andrew, and all the best for the years ahead. Warm regards, Mike Rand, the Premier of South Australia. And this voice is another voice you may recognise from around the corridors of power.
I knew Andrew as a pastor of one of the largest congregations in my electorate and a constituent and a friend at the Christmas carols.
Yes, it's the Honourable Joe Scalzi, member for Hartley in the House of Assembly. So
Well-
what have been your experiences working with Andrew Evans over the last few years?
Well, at first I too was surprised in the transition, but over the years, and I've been a member for around 12 years, you read a lot of family impact statements by the major parties and indeed by the minor parties as well. But Andrew has made sure that the major political parties not only have the impact statements in their policies, he's making them accountable. And I thank you for that, and it's great working with you on those statements. Thank you.
Thank you. Give him a hand. Thank you. Well, it's been an amazing life. But before we take a look at the final chapter of your 70 years, we want to give you the opportunity to speak. We've heard a lot of things about what makes you tick, but what is the one thought that you'd like to leave with these people tonight?
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. And right at the beginning, I'd like to say, looking back on those 70 years, I have all praise, all thanks, all glory to my Heavenly Father. And His Son Jesus and the wonderful Holy Spirit. For all things that we've ever accomplished is by Him and through Him, and without Him we can do nothing. I suppose looking back over that period of 70 years, the first 21 years of my life were pretty ordinary. I had an ordinary education. I did just ordinary at school. I was ordinary at sport. I was ordinary at music. I had an ordinary job. I just lived an ordinary life. But in 1957, two things happened to me that year that revolutionized my life and changed it and put me on a path that has amazed me. The first was in the Easter of 1957 on a Sunday night, where even though I'd been brought up in the church and been to church all my life and taught the Bible from a child, that meeting, that Sunday night, I experienced God powerfully for the first time in my life. I understood faith. My eyes became opened, and suddenly I grasped that through Jesus Christ, we have eternal life, we have peace in this life, and we had a future and a hope. And they had a great plan for us. And I understood that. But I didn't quite understand how to find that plan. And I knew God wanted me to be involved in some activity in my life, but what it was I didn't know and I didn't understand. But a chance meeting with someone, a total stranger, at about midnight, he gave me 3 keys. I remember saying to him, what do I do? How do I know whether God's got a plan? What is His purpose? How do I know His will for me? And he said, when you come to the crossroads of your life, he said, look for 3 things. He says, number 1, look for desire. He says, what desire is in your heart? He says, desires come and go. But when God plants a desire, it stays, and it keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back. He said, secondly, you need to look at circumstances, because God works through open doors and closed doors. And you need to look and see what circumstances are saying. And thirdly, he said, you need to see if He will speak to you from the Bible or speak to you by the Holy Spirit or through some spiritual gift. Well, it wasn't long after that that I was challenged about my future, and the challenge was, what do I do about my life? And an urge came in my heart, a desire, just like he said, to train to be a pastor. Now, there were many schools I could have gone to, but I seemed to be getting a direction in one way, and so I put it to a test, and circumstances proved to be accurate, and the doors began to open, and the opportunities were there to go into this school and train. And then I said to God, look, I just need one more. Give me one more indicator. Speak to me through the Bible. And how powerfully I remember that last few days of 1957, going into a little cabin in a campsite in Victoria, and just without thought, kneeling beside my bed and just opening the Bible, and this verse jumped out at me and it said these words, "Arise. This matter belongs to you. Be of good courage and do it." And I felt God had given me a word, but I had a few days of uncertainty, and give me another sign, give me another indicator. And in my reading one day, he said, get out from your father's house into a land I'll show you, and you'll become a blessing, and so on. He was speaking from Genesis chapter 12. And so I took my first step of faith, leaving the comforts, leaving the security. I just worked a whole year, day and night, to get myself a permanent, well-paid position in the public service, and just pass exams. And he thrust me out of it, and I went out into training Bible school. And from that point on, every decision, major decision I ever made, I looked for those three keys. When I wanted to marry my wife, I looked for those three keys. The desire grew and grew and grew and grew. That was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. When we went to New Guinea, once again, I put those three principles in operation. The desire was there, the circumstances were there, and the leading of God by His Word was there. When we returned to Australia, and we actually came to this church, and I remember having 7 churches write to me and invite me to be the pastor. And I used to lay them on the bed before me every day, and I'd say, which one? And I'd look for the desire. Where did I feel desire to? And as I put those things into place, and I'd find myself having no desire to stay in Queensland. No. Unfortunately, I wanted to stay there, but the desire just went. And the desire grew and grew, and finally we ended up at Clemsig. And every time I made a move of any major consequences, I put those, what I call the 3 harbour lights, into practice. And what I discovered over the next 50 years, that God has a good plan. He has a big plan. He has a plan beyond your imagination for you. And if you'll just let Him guide you and lead you and follow and walk through that path, you'll discover amazing things in your life. And so when I got to 65 and I retired, I began to get a strange desire. I'd never been involved in politics, never belonged to any political party of any kind. But I began to feel an urge for about 12 months, and I shared with Pastor Paul one day that I had this strange desire to get involved in politics. And when it kept coming back and kept coming back and kept coming back, I knew that I was on the journey. We looked at circumstances and we listened to what God was saying. I remember being in Jakarta on the Easter weekend, and praying and say, God, I've got the desires and that's there, and the circumstances seem to be opening up, but do you really want me to be involved in politics? And in my spirit He spoke, and He spoke in an unusual way. And he said, you'll never know until you put your hand up. I thought, what's that mean? And so as I look back on my life, I want to encourage you. God has a plan for you. God has a purpose for you. It's bigger than you can imagine. It's here to bless you. It's here for you to make an impact. It's here for God to use you. And as you follow that through, you'll be amazed at where He'll take you. Part of the way, of course, is that you follow a life of commitment. In Romans chapter 12, we find where God guides us even without anything spectacular, where He guides us automatically, and it's to those who are committed. He says, present your bodies, a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And as I look, when I was 21 years of age, and I said to God, I've got one life, take it, do with it whatever you want to. I give my whole life, and I started a road of total 100% commitment to Jesus Christ. He's able to take us up. He's able to take the ordinary. I was just an ordinary student. I thought I was a star footballer, but in reality I was hopeless. I thought I was going to be a brilliant musician, but I just didn't have the gift. But God, He enjoys taking the ordinary, the nothings of this world. In fact, He said so. Paul says, look at your calling. Not many noble, not many mighty are called, but God hath deliberately chosen the weak things of this world to confound the wise. And today and this evening, if you don't know God, may I encourage you tonight to say, God, I want to find you. I want to know you.